Hi, my name is Terry. I have 3 college degrees, including a master's degree from an Ivy League university. I'm fluent in 2 languages, and I have a commercial driver's license, which allows me to operate heavy trucks, and I still can't find a job. My girlfriend's been working at a fast food restaurant for the past 9 years, but what she really wants to do is become an elementary school teacher. So every day I'm going to be coming on here and telling you guys stories about things that I think are cool or interesting, and then I'm going to teach you a little bit of Spanish, until I can earn enough money to send my girl to teaching school. So, we received a few days ago a subscriber recommended topic, which was to cover all of the US presidents and the impact that they've had in shaping what America looks like today. Now we're focusing on our 3rd batch of presidents, beginning with Herbert Hoover. Now, if you've studied American history, you know this isn't going to be good. He presided over the largest and most well-known depression in American history. His philosophy was that of rugged individualism, and so he refused to provide federal relief. As a result, millions lost their homes. 32nd President Franklin D. Roosevelt came behind him and had to clean up the mess. In his first 100 days, he pushed a massive wave of legislation to restabilize the economy. He created the CCC to give jobs to young men, the SEC to regulate Wall Street, and the FDIC to protect bank deposits. But his biggest legacy was Social Security, a social safety net program for the elderly and the disabled. He also presided over World War II, shifting his focus from the New Deal to winning the war. Under his leadership, the U.S. didn't just win the war, they dominated so decisively that they emerged on the other side as the world's first true superpower. But while the public saw a strong leader, FDR was very ill during that final year. The White House went to great lengths to hide that from everyone, including his vice president. But he had incredibly high blood pressure and heart failure. Many believe that the stress of guiding the country out of the Dark Depression and World War II just wore his body out. On April 12, 1945, at 1:15 p.m., he was sitting for a portrait when he suddenly clutched his head and said, "I have a terrific headache." He collapsed right then and there and never regained consciousness. The guy who had to follow in his massive footsteps was Harry Truman. He didn't just want to maintain FDR's New Deal, he wanted to expand it. He passed an increase in minimum wage and a major expansion to Social Security. He was also even more aggressive on civil rights than FDR had been. He was the first president to ever address the NAACP. And in 1948, he desegregated the military. FDR was an act that I wouldn't want to follow, but less famous. Even though he was less famous, Truman actually did a pretty good job in filling his shoes. The next president, Dwight D. Eisenhower's biggest legacy was the interstate highway system, a 41,000-mile network of high-speed roads. He also created NASA. The next president, John F. Kennedy, was the first Catholic ever elected. He sensationalized the space race for Americans, pledging to be the first country to send a man to the moon. He never lived to see it, though, as he was assassinated on November 22, 1963. His successor, Lyndon B. Johnson, was very strategic. Johnson wanted to continue his work, so he capitalized on the nation's grief to kind of guilt them into accepting the social reforms. Kind of like we have to end segregation now because it's what Kennedy would have wanted. He was very clever, and it worked. Under Johnson, you got an official end to segregation. You also got Medicare, Medicaid, the Head Start program, and the food stamp program. Unfortunately, he largely instigated the Vietnam War, which was very unpopular and stains his legacy in the minds of many today. His successor was the only president to ever resign from office. Can you guess which one we're talking about? Richard Nixon. Before 1972, the U.S. did not rock with China at all. But Nixon did the unthinkable and flew to Beijing to meet with Mao Zedong. This paved the way for the massive economic relationship that the U.S. shares with China today. He created the Environmental Protection Agency and the Clean Air Act. Before this, rivers were literally catching on fire because of all the pollution. In 1972, men connected to Nixon's re-election campaign broke into the Democratic National Committee headquarters at the Watergate Hotel. Nixon actually didn't order the break-in, but he orchestrated a massive cover-up to try to hide it. Facing certain impeachment, he resigned on August 9, 1974. His successor, Gerald Ford, granted Nixon a full pardon. He argued that the country needed to stop talking about Watergate and move on. This infuriated millions who wanted to see Nixon go to trial and felt that justice had not been served. This move ultimately cost him re-election, and Jimmy Carter was elected instead. If you're watching up to this point, I'm guessing he may have been the first president in your lifetime. If I'm right, drop me a like down below. But he was the first president to make his personal finances public. He created the Ethics in Government Act, which required officials to disclose their income. He was a champion for transparency among elected officials. He also declared that the U.S. would only support nations that respected human rights. While critics called him soft, this move pressured regimes in Latin America and Africa to stop torturing their citizens. This changed America's moral reputation in the world. He also pushed for energy conservation. After Carter was Reagan. He shifted away from FDR's New Deal. Instead, he believed in trickle-down economics. He cut taxes for the wealthy and for corporations and spent billions on military buildup. This led to a massive increase in the national debt and a widening wealth gap. So, make sure you tune in tomorrow where we're going to be covering the last chunk of the U.S. presidents up until present day. But the Spanish I'm going to be teaching you today is Cómo han cambiado las cosas. Cómo han cambiado las cosas. Cómo han cambiado las cosas. And what that means is, how have things changed? If you like this video or you learned something new, drop a like down below. If you have a specific topic that you'd like to see me cover, drop me a comment. And if you'd like to support this work that I do, there'll be a link to the Cash App in the description box below. We'll see you tomorrow.